He learned something in that conversation that made him think, I need her to die right now, instead of dying from the poison. I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut? Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, all we were told was that it was a terrible toxin. And there's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membani-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink. Objection! Where are you going with this, counsel? Many-Memo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found the opportunity, this man would have seen it. Ugh! Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Membani-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Many-Memo-san overheard some worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of the pupils. Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. So? Wait, because only one of the people who stole it could be the person who used it? Balderdash! They could have given it to someone. Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Membani-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties. Ugh! Hing! In other words, someone like you, right and Many-Memo. Gyag! It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day, and it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim, but you quickly realized that was a terrible mistake. Because the poison caused such unusual symptoms, and was so traceable. As you listened in from the far side of the beach's hut's thin walls, you learnt of these facts, but you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. It was too late for you to just walk away, having been sighted at the beach by 0 people other than the victim, who died without saying anything. And then the suspicion would have fallen on the person who was in the hut, who had a motive, and who worked in the lab where it was developed. Good plan stabbing her. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involves stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen with a knife that you fortunately were carrying. But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction, but he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would ever have suspected. Also, wouldn't have suspected if he just walked away. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effects of the poison meant it could be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging a time knife into the middle of the victim's back, thereby rewinding her blood. Except for one thing, I think if the count was here, he would be counting to more than just one. There are many things wrong with this. Order! Order! The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. It was Ideo who crashed into the hut and put everything back together. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? Well, there are a number of... yes, I counter completely. The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Lost hope! Arg, you pathetic, useless fallen samurai. Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? My burgeoning growth is on the rise. I don't need a counter-argument. What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say? Gave it to the victim, you say? Stabbed her, you say? Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Shoko, shoko, shoko! Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts. Facts and logic. Get owned, libtards. Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I mean, what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here, in my many memos. Every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Shoyu News is famous for. It's the power of the printed word. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed. All visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. And this is when we go, oh, he put in his pen. How's that then? Blown the story wide open? See? I, Raiten Many Memo, a mere reporter from the Shoyu News, couldn't possibly have stolen that poison from the professor's laboratory. Ag! We found the traces of poison in the pen ages ago. But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. If that's the case... As you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? My point is this. There is one way that you, Many Memo-san, could have stolen the poison that day. I've heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. The court must be shown is evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on the day in question? I wonder if the conclusion of there were all of the times that, like, the final objection, the final take that it does like a 360 spin so he can point, and I wonder if her hat's gonna fly off and her hair's gonna come out and they're gonna be like, it's a girl, doesn't count. No lady lawyers, guilty.
Take that.
It could happen. That's also every Phoenix Wright case. The absurdity of getting this far into the case and then losing all your hit points and then going, well, obviously they did it. And everyone unanimously voted for Hajime. proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen.
Ugh! Fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant?
These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now.
I swear by a weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else, these newfangled pens are merely a fad. Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pen. Suck a soup can of sumptuous ink, and one's work is awash with words in the blink of an eye.
That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir on the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later.
What does all this talking of sucking up ink have?
And just as it's possible to suck ink up into the reservoir... Could be. I've been known to pronounce a word wrong now and then. Not famous for it or anything. It's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course.
My word, can this really be?
Well, Many-Memo-san? When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir. Garg!
Objection! More absurdity, that never happened.
True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory, but would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places?
No, I'm a little ashamed to say. For fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say.
I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Many-Memo-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped?
Are you suggesting?
The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison from it into her glass.
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down the details of his conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
No, couldn't have happened. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink?
What?
There's an ink void. Just look. As you can see for yourself, if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass.
Witness, what do you have to say in your defense?
Wahahaha. So this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. It's Pencil Wolverine. Ah! We're under attack. Did I bring a sword? You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine, upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again.
Looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. You have only one piece of evidence that you have not presented yet. It rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. Therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did, with evidence.
No such evidence could possibly exist. Many Memo-san, this is how our modern justice system works.
What?
In a courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we are well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you.
Very well, then. Call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence.
This is it, then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The final cat in the cat nap.
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle?
This bottle contains the unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question.
Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method.
Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison.
A reagent? What?
One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Many Memo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt.
Hinrig. No. You can't! I won't!
He's gonna knock my hat off. He's doing it. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once.
This isn't my fault. The Empire drove me to this, trying to hold its high citizen high as power. Look, took my arms and finally power taught Thailand battlefield name Justin many.
Oh! Susato, with me! We don't allow people to just have a witness breakdown. We counter their breakdown and take their whole life bar. Okay. Did I do it right? That was a Susato takedown, wasn't it? No, it's a Ryutaro takedown. Not quite. That was a Ryutaro. Oh, okay. She said it was. The instant the first drop of the reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me, and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Many Memo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project, after all. Too juicy for a journal like me to pass up.
Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead?
I went into that hut intending to quiz her on her situation, that's all, as a reporter. A known killer, enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face. In that annoying British way. I was faded.
Alright.
Faded, we needed your counting skills. There were so many pencils broken in this court case, but we don't know how many. Oh, what's this? Oh, this is him talking for her. Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really? You must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What did you call me? This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from. Faded is no longer a freelance counter. Sad day. That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. Do it. Somebody say the pen is mightier than the sword. Say it.
What a terrible tale.
In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journo spirit getting all fired up. Yeah, this is the end of case 1. I'd like to ask you something.
Yes?
You often talk about justice. But surely, as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what had happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up, that's what it was. A cover-up? What do you mean?
I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say.
Oh, come on. Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national? Consular jurisdiction should never have come to it. And yet that puffed-up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset, a free woman. The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. You come under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free? If they're going to crush the free press? And what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? I had to become a superhero. Pencilverine. Let's not forget, Menimemo-san, that you committed murder yourself, and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. We went over that. He tried to claim that he always uses pencils, and we're like, no you don't. This is your pen, and we know because you have ink on your hand. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. Harsh. The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose. No, I thought he was going to suppose something, but he just supposed.
It would appear we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryutaro Naruhodo.
Oh, yes, ahem. Sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a manly way here.
It's almost unbelievable. This is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits.
Oh, Naruhodo's... Ryunosuke, you mean?
The way he handled the trial 9 months ago and the way you handled this one. It gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land.
That's very flattering, Your Excellency.
Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporary male men lawyers. Only.
Thank you.
So, Prosecutor Aochi, do you have any final thoughts?
Is he gonna seppuku? Prosecutor Aochi?
I, Taketsuchi of the Aochi clan, have been bested by a callow youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it is withered and died here today.
Well, I guess he's just gonna cut the hair off. Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it?
Silence! Rather than living on in shame. I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path to Ouchiism.
Ouchie-ism?
One hopes that's the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness. Sprig of my topknot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Taketsuchi.
It was a haiku.
Yarg!
I didn't particularly mean for him to be Woody Allen, but yeah, okay, maybe that's kind of the voice I was doing. Forgot you were here. That was what I thought at first, but no.
Now, in regard to the defendant, Rei Membami-san.
Yes, Your Excellency.
I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you...
Hooray! Sakura petals! But who was watching? There are no upper seats there. There was nowhere from which to throw that Sakura.
Court is adjourned.
It's over. My heart is still doki doki in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruhodo-san? Susato! Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Rei and Father. Byzantine state contracts and policies? I didn't, I guess. I assume everything does. It's government. What would it be if not Byzantine? Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... I think I'm going to cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end, too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Rei. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. Susato, don't be standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of this formal super humility nonsense that didn't translate. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw caution to the wind. Caution to the... what? I'm the greatest defense lawyer, Ryutaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something like that.
Right, I see. I'll, think about it, right?
At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw together?
I hope you're not looking at me, Rei.
Oh my goodness, no, of course not. Of course not.
There it is at last.
His lovely smile.
You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense attorney Ryutaro Naruhodo.
Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, time to bid farewell to Ryutaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba for now. So I'll never see him again then. What a terrible shame. What?
What is happening? A girl?
And Soseki-san, Inspector Hosonaga, I do hope you've been keeping well?
Is that really you?
Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me. Susato Mikotoba.
Don't. So dashing, so divine. No! Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Miss Susato Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire's cousin. Astonishingly astounding ace attorney.
Poor Soseki-san, so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. He did, he said the thing! But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Soseki-san was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. Renowned author and contortionist. As he keeps doing the things. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm a chief inspector at the police bureau who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less. I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really? And this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch... I'm not a what? I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes. I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here in the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Though that didn't help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now that the truth has been lost forever. What do you mean? Oh no, that was... What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the English woman committed at the end of last year. Ah, yes, it was an English doctor. No, wait. Hold on. Now that she has her other name, I'm expecting to see that, but no. They're both 6 letters, they both start with an S. It's confusing. Ah, yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Dr. John H. Wilson, yes, the man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter with Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes well, of course. Ah, my arch-nemesis, how lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the studies published about him in The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. Yeah, they're kind of doing a thing, since this is The Great Ace Attorney 2. They are kind of like recapping bits from the previous game, even though I'm playing them as one packaged game called Chronicles. So they've had a bunch of things where they keep flashing back to things from the last game and mentioning them. And if that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again. As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at Imperial Yunei University, but I also serve another role, as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand that there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Could you just tell me one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said you'd collapsed with a high fever and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know, because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain you perceived might inconvenience me in some way, or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Dear me. Do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear. I simply can't. Arg! Oh! How did you get away? Shoot him! Shoot him! He's not allowed to get away. Memo-san! So, one throw wasn't enough for you. I've got one last thing to say before they take me away. Professor! Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on, in that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her, the student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago. What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama. What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... Oh. Judge Judo. Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What are you officers playing at? Don't you have guns? Haven't guns been invented yet? Terribly sorry, Your Excellency. Even better, yes, Judge Zangief. I was coming to tell you that the rickshaw has arrived, Eugen, and it's a good job I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him. I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency. The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore, merely your father's friend. Seishiro Jigoku. Jigoku means hell. Is Seishiro judge? May I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance, Susato? Did you know all along, from the start of the trial? Have we been rused by a Phoenix Wright judge? How you've grown. How you've grown, franchise. The judge sees everything, Susato. I couldn't let you take the risk. Seishiro here hadn't known, and then he'd recognized you. So I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So, Seishiro, shall we? Your Excellency was my father's name. Yes. Having ruled on that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Before you go, Father. Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date after I have been murdered. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably. Oh, thank you very much. What did you think of my Seishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett, about Dr. Wilson, and now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime. When nobody else is around, and he has died. Judicial Assistant Mikotabo-san Esquires, could I have a word? Oh, yes, of course, Soseki-san. What is it?
I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you.
Oh?
I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England.
This I have to hear. Please, Soseki-san, tell me at once.
I will! I will! Later, after I've been murdered. As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in, and the food wasn't good either. Thank goodness locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on a ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikotoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report.
My father? Just the pencil in his back, ninja.
He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent the telegram to you, asking you to return to Japan.
What was it then? The particular part my father was interested in.
I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in.
Of course, I could never forget.
Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case.
The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? And that's their excuse for why we're going to flash back to it? So after we got him off the hook for the first case, there was a time skip. We just kind of skipped over the one day in which he was accused of and then proven innocent of a murder. And then we never spoke of it again. What's the Simpsons episode? They find out that Principal Skinner is actually, what was his name? Armand Targaryen or something. And the judge rules on. He's like, you will, officially change your name to this, and no one shall ever speak of it again under penalty of death. Stabbed in the back with a pencil while in a locked room with a cat door cut into it.
Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public or the player is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care! I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings.
That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan? I thought that whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. How's Bonsai?
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness.
Oh no, wait, bonsais are tiny.
And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in.
You're not supposed to tell anyone, it's a
Father has
secret.
said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery.
Oh, they're playing it
My
up
notes
so
in the
much that I
case
wonder if
should
it's not
still
going to be
in
the
the
next
office, tucked
case.
away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
So yeah, maybe we're gonna do that. We're gonna flash back to that case next, or maybe they're going to dangle it, and we don't do it until case 4. Like, they played it up so much that they might actually save it. But we will find out next time. What's today even? Today's Thursday, so next time will be Saturday. Playing some more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles Part 2, Case 2. The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Okay, so we're probably doing it now. Alright, that is it for today. Ow. Cracking all over the place. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you Saturday. I still have to think of other games to play, because this is like the last game that I guess I could just play like a random game from my Steam library that I haven't played yet, but I'm trying to think of like what is something that I would want to play. I'll be thinking about it. You think about it too, and I will see you next time.